All right, guys, it's Jahlon, and in the last couple of months, I've started to get disenfranchised with Intrepid Studios and the Ashes of Creation project. The last couple of live streams, they've really been demoralizing. The live stream itself has been really good, and then information released after the fact has sort of been a gut punch. But today, I want to give credit where credit is due. This live stream for the Cyclops raid boss was a huge marked improvement in their live stream quality. Now, I'm not about to say, oh my God, my confidence is completely restored. No, because Intrepid still has a lot of very specific boxes they have to check in order for my confidence to be restored. But I want to give credit where credit is due. This live stream video was so much better. Now, the live stream itself was kind of more streamlined, and I'm not going to avoid the elephant in the room. Steven Sharif did go on a rant towards other developers at the beginning of the live stream. I think he needs to stop doing that. I think Steven needs to be reminded that Steven the gamer and Steven the CEO of Intrepid Studios are two different hats. I think in the middle of his live stream, he needs to, take Will Smith's advice. He needs to keep other games about his mouth. I think if he wants to be a gamer, a passionate gamer, he should just stream from his home. He should start a channel. He should stream and he should talk to people directly. But in the long term, I'm not sure how much damage that is done, but hopefully Steven stops doing that. Now, as far as the other times they went off the rails, the Hawaii story, the scuba diving story, I think those stories are okay. And I know a lot of people are going to be shocked that I say that. I think those stories are okay because they show Steven and Margaret as people. And being people is something that some of the other Intrepid Studios staff forget to be human beings, but we also don't want another corpo. Steven is a passionate gamer. We want to see him as a passionate gamer. So the scuba diving story, good. The rant at other developers, maybe not so good. As far as this video was so much better. They chopped it down to 20 minutes and to fit that into the live stream. And the video itself was on point the whole time. They followed the boss around. They talked about the boss. They talked about him knocking down trees, but you could clearly see that was the buildup to move into this fight. Now, I know some of you are going to say, but Jay, I really like the 45-minute gameplay videos. And I'm not against the 45-minute gameplay video. I'm against the 45-minute gameplay video shoved in the middle of a live stream. This 20-minute video, it was done before you realized you were still watching the video. So it was very well put together. They also showed gameplay from more than one perspective. Now, it was pretty rugged this first time, but it's an awesome step in the right direction. I hope they stick with the idea of showing different perspectives. I'd actually like to see them do something like this. As you see in the lower corner, I'd like to see the developer's face, the developer's name and what class they're playing. So as the camera switches, you kind of get to know other developers. I'd also love to see them make it so that whichever developer is talking, that's the footage you see on the screen. So I think that would add a certain, I dare to say, immersion to the live stream, so that whichever developer is talking is what's on screen. I do think that this will force Intrepid to record the videos earlier, so Margaret has time to edit. And I also think it would be important to note they need to spend more time showing the tank perspective and the healer perspectives. That way every player gets their connection. Tanks get to see a little bit of what tanking is going to look like. Clerics get to see a little bit of what healings look like. And then damage dealers get to see the mage. But it would also be great if you had shown the mage and the ranger at different times. But again, this is a step in the right direction, so I'm giving them all the kudos. Good job on this. This was also the first time in a long time we've seen multiple developers on the screen, multiple in the terms of 16. The last time we saw this many developers on the screen was during the Alpha 1 Dragons content during the Siege show. So this is all great stuff. I understand it's more work. It's more workload for Margaret and the editing team, but this is the right direction. Stick with this. And if you disagree, leave a comment below. We also got a lot of insight during this fight into Steven's belief on scaling. Steven doesn't believe in scaling. What he actually said was there are defined challenge ratings. So what he means by that is this world boss is a level 30 world boss, and there is going to be a plus minus range to it. Now, during the live stream, he did say a plus minus 9, but then in another place, he said level 22s through level 35s could do this content. So I'm not quite sure if they have 100% dialed in this content range. Now, somebody did ask the question, if this is meant for 16 level 30s, what's going to stop a handful of 50s from coming and just killing it to put it on farm? It's a great question. The answer is going to be something that, number one, a group of level 50s could still be contested by a raid of level 30s. Both directly in the tag plus 40% damage or PvP. Also, if level 50s are doing level 30 content, then they're not doing the more profitable content that is content at their level. Now, this also does bring in the question, how would the level 50s know when to farm it? And we're talking about spawn timers. They did reaffirm yesterday that world bosses won't be on a fixed timer. They'll be on a variable spawn timer. So what this means is it won't be a fixed 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the boss spawns, and it probably won't be 16 hours after the boss was defeated, he'll respawn. What we got there was it'll be a variable respawn, so you never quite know where and when the boss will come back. Now, we didn't find out if the respawn will only be during server prime time, or if world bosses is something that can be done off prime. So that brings me to a question. Should world bosses only be available during prime time? And I'd like you to leave a comment below. Do you think world bosses should spawn 24 hours a day? And you have people doing a world boss at 2 o'clock in the morning? Or if the prime time for the server is 3 to 11 at night, is that the only time the world bosses should spawn? Should they be forced into the prime time window on their respawn? Also, speaking of world bosses, it looks like Intrepid is trying to do something more than just a tank and spank. It looks like they're trying to put together some ideas in their world boss that makes it more complex. There were some mechanics going on in this boss fight. Now, I did watch certain Ashes of Creation community members feel that Intrepid was overselling this fight as something more than just a tank and spank. I think there is a certain level of mechanics going on here. And as Intrepid moves forward with the actual balanced and built classes and archetypes, this fight might seem more interesting as it goes on. I think the tree totem that the world boss will drop into the fight is a familiar but not a common mechanic. Bosses regenerating is bosses having a regen phase is a common mechanic, but the fact that the players can also heal themselves off the mushroom caps the boss is using, that's interesting. It means that players have to be aware that they can heal themselves through boss mechanics if the healers are saturated. Now, I get it. I think there needs to be a little bit more to this fight. When the boss charges at people, that should give a permanent debuff, permanent in the terms of the fight, to the player, like you take additional damage each time you're hit, or it should give the boss a buff. As you can see right there, the tank was moving the boss away from this totem that has to get destroyed. These are all great things that should be going on, but I do appreciate what some community members said, and it does look like a tank and spank with just some additional nuance. A small thing we found out during the live stream was for the mages, you will be able to dual wield a one-handed weapon like a sword and then a spell focus like an orb, a spell book, a shrunken head, and this is to increase your casting power in your offhand. This is something a lot of mages wanted. I think it's a great step. Now, I do want to remind people that the orb itself may or may not make it into the final build as a ranged weapon. If they are putting the orb into the right hand as a spell focus, I would not count on it getting into the final build as a ranged weapon. I think that Intrepid might just end up chopping ranged weapons down to longbows, short bows, and wands, which would be okay because you're going to get your mage class fantasy. They did talk about dual wielding, and if you are dual wielding, you will have a weapon skill tree specifically for dual wielding, not not two different skill trees, one for each weapon. They had told us this before, and I had forgotten that fact because it was kind of obscure when they talked about it. I think this is the right direction because as the question was asked, how do I proc my offhand procs when I'm dual wielding? So having a dual wielding skill tree is probably the right decision. One thing from the Q&A, which is odd, that Intrepid talked about, is they're going to allow raid leaders to kick people just before the loot drop. I'm not sure if this is a good decision. I think Final Fantasy XIV's system is better, where once you're in combat, the party is locked, and the party stays locked until loot is resolved. But this is another one I want to ask. What do you think? Should the raid leader be able to kick people before loot? Or should it be like Final Fantasy XIV, where the party is locked in combat and when loot is being rolled on? So once you're in combat, you can't be kicked, and if any loot gets dropped, you can't be kicked. What do you think about that? Do you think that it should be a hard mechanic where you can't kick people? Or do you think Steven's idea of soft friction between players and player reputation is going to stop raid leaders from behaving that way? Finally, although they didn't say it is the next live stream, they did tell us that crafting will be ready to tease soon. Now, if this is the 3-month soon or the 6-month soon, we don't know, but we do know they're getting close to be able to show us crafting. With that said, I do want to pop out here real quick, and I want to remind you that what is going on with the Ashes of Creation packs. They have finally made the announcement that they are going to stop selling Founders Packs. You are not going to be able to buy into Alpha 2 much longer. They said 3 months. Previously, they had said they would give us a couple of weeks notice. So if Alpha 2 is going to be your thing, make sure you buy in now, because other than the content creator keys, and I do have 11 to give away later on down the road, there's going to be no other way to get into Alpha. With that said, if you are going to sign up for Ashes of Creation, there is a referral link in the description. I'm going to ask that you use that. It helps me eventually. It lets Intrepid know that I still reach new people when I do content, but it also is going to be used to do PGN Music. If you're not familiar with PGN Music is my copyright-free music label. Description's in the link below. It's also the music you heard today. All of my music is available for my content creation peers to use without risk of DMCA strikes, copyright claims, and all that nonsense. With that said, I do stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I talk about Ashes of Creation. If you've got a question, you want to challenge something, swing on over to my Twitch channel and we can talk about it then. I will see you guys next time.